What's up, everybody? Happy Masters Sunday. Welcome to the Early Edge. There are some questions already about the Masters. I see you, Scott Kobe. Can anyone beat Scheffler? We will address that in this show. Welcome on in, everybody. Hit the like button if you could. Let's take a very quick look at the recap screen. Too many X's on this one. We lost our baseball bets. Fortunately, on SportsLine, we hit some here. We got Spencer Turnbull's under 5.5 Ks. And, of course, Mike McClure hit his Cubs pick over on SportsLine. But we got to do better than this. Keep in mind, Danny Brasco, 2 for 6. But look at all the plus money plays there. Plus 185, plus 140, plus 160. So always keep that in mind in terms of the types of bets that are being offered. A lot of times when you have like a plus 185, maybe you're not betting a full unit, but you're betting as much as it takes to win a full unit. Just something to keep in mind from a betting standpoint. But either way, we got to do better than that, and we're going to do better with the stars of the show today on a Sunday. We bring you Mike McClure, the Maestro, and Sniper. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got it all for you today. We've got MLB. We've got, of course, some Masters picks. We actually have 3 matchups to give you. And maybe if you have some questions about maybe live outrights, I know we were talking pre-show with Mike McClure about what he thinks in terms of the chase pack to Scottie Scheffler. And Larry, I got to ask you, because we're going to cover some NBA too. We've got a ton of NBA afternoon games, and we're setting up for the playoffs here. Like, is there a way for you to kind of level set where we are with sort of the NBA playoff race? What is still up for grabs?
There's so much up for grabs. I couldn't go into it unless we had a 30-minute show just talking about that. But you have all 30 teams playing. 12 of the 15 games have playoff implications. Some of the biggest ones, you have a 3-way tie out west with the OKC Thunder holding the tiebreaker edge. If all those top 3 teams win, they get the number 1 seed. In the East, you have the Bucks who need to beat the Magic to clinch the number 2 seed. The Knicks could also move up to number 2, but the Magic aren't going to lie down because they could fall all the way from the 5 into the play-in tournament. So that's one of the games to watch today. And the play-in tournament starts Tuesday. You have games Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then the real playoffs start on the weekend.
The real playoffs. That sounds very good. Matt, I was going to say Mike. But Matt, we're going to get to you in a second because I want to get started with our official picks. I know you've got 2 baseball picks I'm very intrigued by. But Mike, I want to ask you this because we are going to be talking a little bit of golf. And before we get into maybe a discussion about outrights and Scottie Scheffler, maybe you could set up a tease here because we were talking pre-show about Scottie Scheffler. And listen, we know he's dominant. We know he's the best player in the world. I mean, it's not hard to say, hey, Scottie Scheffler is going to win the Masters and maybe every tournament that comes after it. With that said, though, before we get into any like specific golf picks, Scottie wasn't great yesterday. He showed some vulnerability, correct?
Yeah, I really think he did, Sia. And we have to, again, you did a nice job setting it up. Not great for Scottie is basically being like everyone else, right? He was still fine. He was right there with everyone else at the top of the leaderboard, but he was certainly not dominant yesterday. He did have a very fortunate eagle, but some really long putts early in that round. If one of those don't go down, things could be quite different here. So while he is fantastic, it obviously takes a ton of skill to do that. I think he was actually pretty fortunate to shoot 1 under par in round 3. I think he should have been closer to +1. I think he should be sitting around -5 right now, tied with Homa and 1 back of Morikawa.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of those names when we get to our head-to-head matchups for round 4. And by the way, shout out to Gipper's picks. It looks like you gave out some UFC picks that landed. So props to you. I know Japan and others are giving you props as well. All right, Sniper, we got to bounce back from yesterday's MLB day. You got 2 teams that you want to cover in terms of team totals. You've got the floor, my friend.
Yeah, I'll start in Baltimore. I definitely like Corbin Burns against his former team, the Brewers. The Brewers are going really well right now. But Colin Ray on the mound for the Brewers, 1.64 ERA right now. He's not that good. There's some regression coming. He doesn't miss many bats. I like the Orioles to put a lot of balls in play and find a lot of holes today. Jackson Holliday, by the way, does not have a hit yet. Major League Baseball's top prospect. He's been up for a little bit less than a week. He does not have a hit yet. He's been beat up by a lot of high velocity up in the zone. Colin Ray doesn't throw that hard. So I think this is a good spot for Holliday to get his first major league hit. That's not my official play, though. My official play is over 4.5 runs. I like the Orioles offense as a whole. I was just kind of mentioning that. It feels like a good spot for Jackson Holliday there. But yeah, Orioles, They average 5.43 runs per game overall, 5.25 at home. I know they don't necessarily might not get that ninth inning at bat, but I don't think they're going to need it. I think they're going to beat up Ray early in the game. So Orioles over 4.5. Another one, same division, same number. Blue Jays over 4.5 runs. It's Kyle Freeland Day. We might start celebrating that like Patrick Corbin Day, because Freeland has allowed 21 runs in just 10 2/3 innings so far this year. On the road, 17 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. The Blue Jays have hit lefties much better than righties. Freeland is a lefty. It's about they have about 130 more OPS points versus lefties and righties. And in his career, Justin Turner has absolutely feasted on Kyle Freeland. A lot of that was when obviously Turner was with the Dodgers facing the Rockies in Colorado, but really good numbers overall for Turner. And this year he's been really good in general. So it's a good matchup for Turner. I love the Blue Jays here, but if you wanted to play something on Justin Turner, that's a good spot as well.
Absolutely love it. And by the way, Chad Eubanks, I caught the Colin Ray reference. Of course, Colin Ray on the mound today, but previously a country music star in the 80s and 90s. Famous song. Yes, he's very old. He's much older than you think. He's got a very famous song called Little Rock. It's actually a pretty good country song. There's also Lee Brown, who's big on the historical presidential history. He says D-backs first 5 -0.5. I've done that before, specifically with the D-backs. I think it's a decent matchup with Gallen on the mound against Mikolas. Yeah. I usually don't like to forfeit that half a run, or I shouldn't say forfeit, but give that half a run. But in this case, it might be justified.
I'm down with that play for sure.
Yeah. I listen, Gallen at home in particular, certainly like that. All right, if you want to make that bet that Lee Brown suggested, or the bets that Gipper Picks suggests, or anybody in this chat, or of course the Sniper, new BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right, we got to get to a host, no pun intended, of golf picks. And we got to get to some NBA picks and some SportsLine picks, which have been treating us pretty well lately. But before we get anywhere, we got to hear a message from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, we are back on the Early Edge presented by BetMGM. I've got a couple of golf picks. One of these two is pretty juicy. The other one is plus money. I'll start with the juicy one. This was actually like -120, -125 yesterday. It grew to -140 across pretty much all markets. I like Cameron Smith over Ben On in round 4. I mean, this is one of those where Ben On is a guy that I've been supporting over the last, 3 or 4 tournaments. If you watch the Early Wedge, I've been on him in DFS and in some head-to-head stuff. But when it comes to the putter and when it comes to round 4 and when it comes to experience at the Masters, I really just trust Cameron Smith, who, we didn't know what Cameron Smith's form was going to be leading up to the Masters. Some of these guys on LIV that haven't been fully successful, we're just not sure what form they're in. But Cameron Smith has been really steady the whole way. And I think in round 4, we're going to see a lot of that, particularly with the putter. Ben On's been good with the ball striking, but he's been pretty bad with the putter. And when it comes to putter regression, I really think Ben On, I don't know that we're going to see regression. I think he's going to continue to struggle with the putter. The cool thing is Cam Smith, he's usually really good with the putter. So I just like the matchup there. The ball striking might be a little bit better from Ben On, but overall, I think when it comes to the short game, Cameron Smith is going to end up prevailing. And I think that's part of the reason this line went from around -120 to -140 in a lot of markets. The next one, might surprise you a little bit. I'm going to go with Max Homa at plus 120 over Ludwig Aubert. And this is just one of those where I think the market is just too high on Ludwig, especially when you consider, this is the Masters. It's his first Masters. It's his first round 4 at the Masters. And also Ludwig in round 4s hasn't been really that great this year. We know that's kind of his history. At the Players round 4, he was really good. But overall, he's really been wilting in round 4s. And I really think that's when Max Homa really starts to pick up his game. Again, I don't love Max Homa's Masters experience. I don't love his major experience, but it looks like that's in the rear view. He's been very steady throughout this tournament. Not a lot of blow-up spots. Ludwig has been outstanding, but I think in round 4, we've seen him wilt, and I think at Augusta, we're going to see a little bit of that as well. And again, I like the way Max Homa has approached this tournament and approached rounds 1 through 3. So you're getting me plus 120. I'm just going to go ahead and take it against the very hot Ludwig Aubert. Those are my 2 round 4 matchups. And Mike McClure, we kick it to you because speaking of plus money, you have one that I think is going to surprise some people as well, because on the other side of it is a guy that people quite like. So what's your round 4 matchup for the Masters?
It's going to be another little more exposure to Bryson DeChambeau for me, Sia. The price point is just the reason for it. It's Bryson DeChambeau plus 125 against Xander Schauffele. So when you look at just a plus 125 in general, that implies about 44%. I'm not ready to say that Xander is a full 6% better than Bryson at this particular event, where Bryson is still long off the tee and frankly playing relatively well for who he is. So I think Xander gets a little too much love because we see Xander week in, week out. We don't see a lot from Bryson, but the price point here, again, I think this is very close to a coin flip, around 50%. So looking at about a 5.5 to 6% edge on Bryson at plus 125, it's just one I can't ignore because of that price. I think these two players very, very equal. Xander's been decent with the putter the last few days. Bryson has been kind of middling across the board, but I still want to bet on the skill set here. I think both of these guys are going to play extremely aggressive because they're really not out of this at all. I know that Scotty's leading at -7, but the way these pin locations are set up today and how difficult this course is overall, it only takes one good hole on their side and one bad hole for Scotty, which we saw yesterday afternoon. So I think they're going to be very, very aggressive, and I will take the plus money here with Bryson, as I think it should be closer to 50%.
Yeah, and for the record, I think Bryson could absolutely have a great day, and I think Xander could have a good day too. Don't forget yesterday, I don't know how many people took it because it wasn't official, but I had Xander as a top 10 at even money, and obviously right now he's firmly inside the top 10. I'm curious who else ended up riding with that one. Mike, let me ask you this before we get to some heavy NBA picks, including some SportsLine picks. Is there anybody on the outright board? Obviously, Scotty Scheffler's in that like -110, -115 range. Then you got Colin around plus 350, Homa plus 750. It goes down to Ludwig at that point, plus 900, Bryson plus 2,000, Xander 30-1, and so on. Is there anybody that you would feel comfortable like sprinkling a little bit on, whether it be just like a sprinkle bet or something you like even more than that?
I like a little bit of Morikawa, plus 350, but I was just looking at the leaderboard here. I think there are 6 guys that can win this still, Sia. That would be Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Ludwig Aubert, Bryson DeChambeau, and Xander. I think those are the 6 guys that can realistically win this golf tournament still. The guy, if anyone upsets Colin or Scotty, right now I actually think it could be Colin Morikawa.
All right. Yeah. Colin looks completely locked in. By the way, it looks like some people locked in Xander yesterday at plus 100. So hopefully that one ends up cashing. All right. Let's look at some SportsLine picks. Larry, before we get to your NBA prop, we're going to start with the Magic -4.5. This one again, all these NBA games, don't be too distracted by the Masters and by MLB afternoon games, because all of these NBA games are in the afternoon as well. We got the Magic -4.5. They're at home against the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, that's a 1 o'clock start. And then we're going to Kevin Durant. This is a 3:30 start against the T-Wolves. Kevin Durant over 25.5 points at -109. Again, KD over 25.5 points against the T-Wolves at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Larry, we've got a little bit more NBA to talk about. And by the way, if you have questions in the chat, I'll try to take a look at those right now. You like a play on TJ McConnell. Talk to us about it.
I love TJ McConnell today in a game that the Pacers are treating as if it's a game 7 because they need to avoid the play-in tournament. They're hosting the Hawks. They're laying 14 points. So you have the blowout potential, but TJ McConnell, to me, his 20 minutes are safe regardless of whether they get out to a big lead. And the last 2 times he faced the Atlanta Hawks, 14 assists, 10 assists, averaging 24 minutes. We know the Hawks are bad defensively, give up the 6th most assists in the NBA. And TJ McConnell, especially since Ben Mathurin went out, especially since the All-Star break, he looks rejuvenated. He looks a lot younger than his 32 years. He's playing great basketball, averaging 7 assists this month. He runs that second unit. It's all TJ McConnell, either scoring or assisting. I like his PRA as well, but I settled on the assist over 5.5 against the Atlanta Hawks.
All right. We'll take the assists over 5.5. By the way, the last time you were on
I fully support that pick.
Yes, exactly. The
Go
Pacers.
Pacers.
Larry, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm kind of flying blind here because I'm not 100% sure. The Herb Jones pick, you had over 3.5 rebounds. That ended up hitting, right?
Yeah, he got 5. I think he got all 5 in the first half, but
I
then
was
he
just gonna
stopped at 5. Yeah.
That's funny because I was keeping an eye on that game and he had 3 rebounds like in the middle of the first quarter, I think. And I was like, oh my gosh, this one's gonna hit really easy. But I never followed up, and I'm sure it was on the recap screen. I'm just forgetting right now. But good stuff there with that NBA prop. Let me just point out a couple of questions that I caught. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything, but Kirk over Hanan, I don't love that one. I'm not 100% sure what to expect from Chris Kirk. Obviously, he's been very good, including yesterday, but I'd probably stay away from that one. And then Batia over Fowler. Fowler's surprised me. And I do think he's going to regress a little bit. The problem I have with Batia over Fowler is I don't think it should be minus 130. I think if it was like minus 110 each way, I'd probably lean Batia's way. But Fowler seems to have found something. And while I do think he's going to regress, I don't fully trust Akshay Bhatia, who, for the record, that was our second pick yesterday. We had Lowry over Bhatia. Lowry, if he wasn't the worst putter in the field, actually would have beaten him by a couple of strokes. But, here we are on that one. We went 1 for 2 because of that. But Bhatia, up until around the 16th, 17th hole, looked pretty good. So I'd probably just stay away from that one either way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think I caught up with most of the questions. If I didn't, especially when it comes to golf, you can always tweet at me and I will try to lock in and make sure I get an answer to you before these matchups go off. But I think we covered it. MLB, NBA, PGA. Let's take a look at the recap screen and see what we've got. Masters round 4, Bryson plus 125 over Xander. I've got a plus money play too. Max Homa plus 120 over Ludwig. And then Masters round 4, Cam Smith minus 140 over Ben On. The Sniper, Orioles team total over 4.5 at minus 110. And Blue Jays team total over 4.5 minus 135. The Maestro, Larry Hartstein, TJ McConnell over 5.5 assists at minus 115. And then, of course, our SportsLine picks, Magic minus 4.5 and KD over 25.5 points at minus 109. Everybody, don't forget, all of these games are starting within the next couple of hours. Not all of them, but most of them are starting within the next 2 to 4 hours. So make sure you lock in the NBA picks early. Make sure you lock in the MLB picks early. And, of course, these round 4 matchups are about to start. So check those out as well. It's been a great show, a great Sunday edition, a Masters, a Hello Friends edition, if you will. But, of course, we peppered in as much MLB and NBA as we could. Go to SportsLine for the rest of the picks. There's plenty more picks in the MLB and in the NBA, specifically NHL too, I'm sure. You can check that at sportsline.com/join if you're not already a member, and you'll get 60% off if you type in the promo code winners. But for the here and now, we got to get out of here. Enjoy your Sunday. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, the Sniper, M2, and of course, the Maestro. This is the Early Edge. I am the counselor, and we rest our case.